So there is Grain. Grain has just joined. There we go. So what the Grain does is it records the conversation, and it makes a transcript, which I don't know if you've seen. I put them as those summaries, right? Well, I mean, it has a full transcript, but then it makes the summary. Now I edit the summary a little bit, but I don't have to do too much. But that's very useful, because when I post it to Substack and to YouTube, those summaries are very nice. And also I use the summaries on the Sunday posts. So it really gives you, when you're looking back at it, okay, and it gives timestamps and all this. So that's very cool, very, very cool. The Grain is very nice. Thank you for reminding me, Beena. Thank you. So just to reiterate for Grain, I started by saying what has come up today as the theme of the day. And this is a thing that comes up fairly regularly. We start the conversations and something happens and it connects this to that, or somebody says something and something jumps to the fore. And what has jumped to the fore today as a topic of importance is the topic of motivation. Now, motivation, of course, is something that if we know how to self-motivate, life is easy. It's a core topic, right? So motivation is associated with mood management. Mood management obviously is associated with energy management. If you're depressed, you're low energy. If you wake up full of beans, you got lots of energy, you're in a good mood. The two go together, right? So energy management leads to mood management, it leads to motivation management, and of course, when you combine all of those together, you get intent management. Because what we are intending is what is important to us, to us personally, right? What we're willing to act on. So I'm just recapping for Grain. So I asked you, Sher, is how does this point about motivation and motivation management, or anything to do with motivation, and how it connects to clarity of intent, etc., how this is personally applicable for you today?
Okay, I'm trying to get that put into words, basically. First off, I mean, motivation, it's in the forefront for me every day. It has to be, just for whatever reason, it has to be. So today specifically, coming from yesterday and the day before, I would have to say that I'm just thoroughly focused on maintaining doing something different, that idea or that intent of doing something constantly different with
brilliant.
Joy, with excitement. And this doing something different is helping me with this motivation to not change, but to just, that's why I said this is really difficult to describe, to just put everything that I had been working towards into action, finally, all together, and starting to see the results. So take, for example, my writing. I don't feel a pressure to have to write every day anymore. I just don't. I want to. And when I get a chance to, I do. But that's not, the writing isn't what the end result is. The end result is my understanding, and then can I put it into the way of the writing that I want to.
Exactly.
That doesn't make sense, but it does appear in my noodle.
Yeah, the growth is the important point. The writing is there to serve growth, not the other way around.
Right. The writing is just an expression of growth. It's basically the artistic expression of, but then there's other ways that I'm applying my expression. I'm doing it through my sewing, hopefully through, some more art, like some more sketching and stuff. Overall, not doing it the way others have always wanted me to do it, not doing the way I think I should do it, or on somebody else's timeline. But I'm doing things in my timeline, my way. For me, not for anybody else, but for me.
Oh,
So there's a lot of motivation going on. That's why I said that for me, motivation is an everyday have-to thing. If I'm not, and I don't really think about it when I get up in the morning, I'm not going to get anything done. Nothing. I'll just kind of sit there and kind of go in circles and just go, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? It's difficult. I don't know if that's what you were looking for, but that's what felt like when you asked me the question. That's what came up was.
yeah. Oh, I just wanted to know how it connects. That's all. You know, sometimes the connections are loose and tenuous, but other times they're more direct and more potent.
It's more of a motivation for relief, and expressing that relief, and not pursuing it, not chasing it, but just imbibing in it, just really feeling it, soaking myself in relief instead of always wondering, when's it going to be my turn? It's my turn now.
Yeah, yeah. Just real quick before we carry on, were you moving about, by the way? Because we could hear it through the.
No, not. I'm really not. It's the device that I'm on, so I may have to switch to my laptop.
Oh, it sounded like it was picking up movement sounds. That's why I was curious what it was picking up. That's very interesting.
Yeah, nope.
Yeah, yeah, we'll have to get you another one. This one not ideal for this. Yeah, it has no noise suppression.
Yeah, well, that's why I may have to switch to my
Yeah,
laptop here shortly.
yeah. No, it's okay now. There was none there, so I don't know what the difference is. All right, no worries. It's not a big deal. Just mentioning. I'm just curious to get feedback. You know, I like to learn. All right, brilliant. Beena, anything before we get going?
I was kind of a bit struggling to hear Sher, so I just did the caption one to really know that okay what she's saying because yeah, for me it is important. And this motivation, when you asked that, I was thinking about that. Okay, what it is actually, what motivation is. Like it is something like some kind of a stimulation which actually incite us to take some action. So we need to go for the core, like, okay, what actually motivates us? And here comes a self-honesty, because in a really, really big role, because if we are not self-honest, we can assume and then assume and perceive our assumption as a motivation that, oh yes, this is profound, this is a good thing, should also that this is something I want to do. But if it is not coming organically, this is like no, it is not getting. Could be the reason, of course, not one reason only that, okay, yes, this is not connected to you. But sometimes, as you mentioned, that low energy, second on a regular basis. But from the very core, like, okay, on in an abstract way, in more bigger picture, if we are not getting this motivation organically, so we need to pay attention to, other than energy management, that maybe we are not clear what we are doing. So we need to have this clarity, as you mentioned, that the clarity of intent, but not only the clarity of intent, but clarity of that purpose and the process also. That what I am doing, if I'm not getting it completely and fully, and if I don't have a clarity that what will be the outcome or the resolution of it, sometimes it's also demotivate us. In those situations, when we are clear that, okay, this is something I want to do, this is my choice, then we need to have and really apply and an application trust, capital T trust, that yes, whatever is not coming to me, that's why I'm lacking in motivation, it will become clear. Because this happens with me many times when I was lacking in, not in motivation, this is like really exciting for me, but sometime in other situation, like when I was doing art, sometimes I'm not feeling motivated to do that. Sometimes I crave for that. Why it happens? Because sometimes I don't have clarity what I really want to do. And how these things are going to be happen. I don't have much skills to do that. What I really want to paint, I don't have much clarity about. So all these things coming together, and which makes us a bit not so clear about life in general. So
Yeah,
that's why
yeah.
this whole thing is very important
It's
to pay
huge. It's
attention.
critical.
Yes.
All right. So you mentioned the key point, and this is now an extension on what we're saying, but it's worth going into because it came up as part of the earlier conversation, and it's a subtle point, but a huge point. You said sometimes we just have to make that bit of effort that we don't necessarily want to make. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
All right. So now, especially when there's overwhelm involved, overwhelm is when we see the big task and we're aware of how big a task it is. And it's like, oh, it's too much effort. I don't want to be doing this. It's a huge deal, right? So awareness is counterproductive when it comes to big projects, big tasks, because then we become aware of how much
Yes.
effort.
Yes.
And if we weren't aware of the effort, we start tackling the project and you don't think about it. All right, let's say you're going to sprinkle in your house. Well, I'm going to sprinkle in my house. But if you don't have awareness of the whole house and how much is involved, you just start and you start sweeping the corner of the living room and then the other corner, and next thing you're done. And so the next thing you know, you're done, right? Because you're just going from small task to small task. So the
Mm.
trick in getting out of overwhelm is to focus on doing the tiniest, smallest, easiest thing that you can do. Well, then it's an
Yes.
easy thing to do, right? And you
Yes.
do it. It's no problem. Now, when you do something that is simple and easy and also important, the result is joy.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm doing something important, but it's easy. Oh, joy. Yeah, we want to do what's important, and if it's easy to do, that's how we feel joy. Well, one of the ways, right? So it's very key. Now you go and you do the next thing, that the next simplest, easiest, tiniest little thing that you can do. And I literally mean take this, break it down into the most ridiculously small parts. It needs to be simple and easy to do. Therefore, because it's also important, we feel joy. And you do it again. So of course, now you're going to end up, your entire project is going to be broken down into these little tiny steps, and it's just joy. Yeah. You can think of it like you're writing a book one word at a time or one sentence at a time. Oh, I write down the sentence. Well, that was easy. Oh, joy. Oh, joy. And you write the next one. Joy. Write the next one. Joy. And also, because you're emphasizing the easy and the joy part and the important part, your brain starts to retrain. Now you start seeing the activity of doing what you're doing, writing a book, cleaning your house, whatever the issue is, as joyful. Right. And your brain is trained because of the emphasis, and it becomes fun. Right. And this is a way to get, especially for writers, and just get out of the whole writer's block thing, or one of the techniques. There are a few other things that have to go with it, but nonetheless, this is a key point. Now, there's a key point that I'm getting to, is that initial unpleasant doing before you do the first, tiniest, easiest, simplest task. You don't know it's going to feel joyful. That you'll only know afterwards. Yes.
Yes.
However, we can use a very powerful technique, which is to leverage time. And we can move into the future and look back from the perspective of utilizing experience that we've had before. I said, before there were things that I thought was kind of unpleasant to do, but when I actually stepped in and did them, how did I feel afterwards? Oh, I never thought about it then, but now that I think of it, afterwards it was like, looking back, what was I so hassled about? It wasn't really a big deal. It was more fear and idea and stress and whatnot. But when I actually did it, it turned out not to be really unpleasant at all, actually. But I thought it was going to be. Yeah. Well, I'm glad I did it at the time, because if I hadn't, I never would have done it, and it was important. But when I did do it, like, all that fear went away. I'm going to leverage this in this situation now, today, when I'm looking at doing that first step, which is, I don't want to do it, whatever. I'm going to go into the future and look back and say, wow, I'm so glad I did that. It was actually not a big deal. I thought it was going to be a big deal, but then when I actually did it, it wasn't a big deal. So I'm going to leverage this time dilation future. I'm going to use my future self to provide the motivation. Yeah, I'm not going to use my current self's motivation. I'm going to use future self's motivation, because future self is looking back and saying, it's no big deal. It actually was kind of fun in the end, actually. Right. So now I feel differently about doing the unpleasant thing. Okay, I still feel a little bit reluctant, but at least it's not as bad as it was before. And I kind of know, I don't know for sure, but I have a good feeling that it's going to turn out to be not as bad as I think it is. So this is a very powerful self-motivation leveraging technique. Yes, go
Hmm.
and find a rationale from your future self that
Hmm.
makes it easier for you to do now. Now, the key is when starting such projects is to acquire the ability to do that first step, which is not fun, you're not motivated, and it's like, yeah, right? To actually be able to do what is thus unpleasant. Because if we develop this skill, you only need to do it once. Once you start it, it starts changing, right? And so, but without that, and it can be sometimes we cannot engage in the most profound of things because we don't have the ability to take that one step when unmotivated. So we realize motivation is the key to everything, but likewise, being able to act without motivation, this is a prime core skill. Now, I've delineated and explained a particular strategy for helping us to act without motivation, but it
Hmm.
doesn't remove the negative motivation. It's still there. We're just lessening it. We're just minimizing it. But we still need to have this ability, and this is where character comes into it. In other words, things like saying, "Why am I going to do it? Because it's the right thing to do." What do my mood have to do with it? Nothing whatsoever. My integrity says I have to do it. End of story. Whether I like to or not doesn't matter. And now we get into factors like discipline. This is what discipline means, doing what you are not particularly motivated to do, but know you need to do because it's important. Yes. And you can go a little bit further. This is where patience comes in, forbearance as well. Yeah. So forbearance is when it's like, man, this is like really piling it on. I got to keep going because, but it's really making it very hard for me to continue. Right. So forbearance is sticking with it, stick to itness, enduring essentially. But you do so, why? Because it's right. And this is where character comes in. However, in most tasks, we don't often get called upon to forbear. In most tasks, especially where overwhelm is involved, if we apply that strategy of breaking it down into smallest, easiest tasks, and it's also important, therefore it's going to lead to joy. The only time we really need to apply this discipline and a little bit of forbearance is in that initial act to basically get off your backside and start doing. Yeah, I don't want to. And you're moaning and groaning and wailing and all unhappy and unpleasant. And you're making such a big deal out of it. And because you're making a big deal out of it, you now make it bigger and bigger and bigger. That first step, but it gets connected with the whole thing. But because you've made a big deal out of it, you're now reluctant to go and prove that you made a big deal out of nothing, because then you're going to look like a fool. Yeah, so what? Yeah, that
Compounding
happens.
effect. Yeah,
Just
it's
exactly.
compound.
So exactly, it compounds. Exactly. So just realize that no matter how much energy you've invested into making it a big deal, all that is going to go away once you actually act on it, right? So don't let your investment of moaning and groaning and complaining and that, don't let that put you off. Yeah. It just adds to a perception of unpleasantness, not the reality. This is the key. So
Thank you
we're
for
gonna,
this reminder.
yeah,
Because being there, and I know that, okay, that there are
yeah,
chances
yeah,
that it can come, of course, again. So it is always good to remind ourselves that, okay, also that what
exactly.
you are saying, still in reverse order, it is also like in the relationships, like whenever we have relationship,
Oh,
or
oh,
everybody, of
oh.
course, including myself and everyone else also, that we mostly, okay, we look for the pleasant side of like, oh yes, having a good time and all these things. But the real details of having a relation with anyone, like okay, difficult times when you are having some arguments, difference of opinion, there are a lot of other things. Even just sometimes you just want to be yourself and like be with yourself only, and constantly being with someone it becomes a pressure for you. You don't want that. It's not like that you will stop loving them, but okay, no, don't want that. Sometimes you don't like their attitude or behavior, way of doing few things. Okay, it is something, it doesn't make sense to you. But these are all part of these adjustment what you have decided, okay, to be in relationship. So it is like, okay, first we are getting all these things, but then we have to deal with all those not so pleasant, not so joyful things also. This is what you need to do. And then it becomes really a big problem, because then we start doubting our relationship, our decisions also. So in reverse order, that okay, first the joy, all yes. Thank you, Sher. Thank you for coming back, because I was missing you.
Yes.
It was it is in every situation, like when you were saying that, okay, to deal with the awful things, with not so pleasant things, like things which are not fun. And it is coming like via attunement today, because when I was having tea with my family and my mama was watching BBC Lifestyle, and on that there was a program about house cleaning. The group of people were going to the other people's house and helping them. And what they really do, this is something I really like about it, because they didn't just discard everything from their house. They just keep those things, they just take all those things from their house, every single piece of whatever it was, and put it in a 10,000 square feet warehouse.
Wow.
And they just organize all those things in categories like toys, accessories, clothing, shoes, utensils, whatever. And it was a 10,000 square feet warehouse, full empty.
Wow.
Everything was on display. And then they created 3 parts also, like, okay, recycle, donation, okay, whatever, sell, whatever. So there was many. But the idea was so profound. And then, of course, they invite the family. Everything was a display, like in Sunday markets. You can see every single piece. But they were categorized. And of course, the counting was also there. That, okay, you have the baby girl had 1,000 something toys.
Holy moly.
1,000 toys. And then the woman had like 54 hairbrushes. And 12 of them were just round brushes. And when they get amazed by that, how much stuff. So it was there in their house. And then they start doing that. But even then, the lady of the house was having she was having all the excuses that why she had all those round brushes and 54 in total.
We're not aware.
So, and she was saying that, okay, because of this, I have all these things. They have cosmetics, like a shop, whole shop.
Right.
Too much stuff. When I was watching that, I realized that, because this is the analogy I'm using for Way-of-Impeccability and for from the very beginning, but what actually it is doing, that all my ideas, my information, knowledge were all just crumpled up into my just tiny little mind, and it has no connection. Because of lack of connection, it has no accessibility. So what Way-of-Impeccability actually did, it just makes those vital connections.
That's the point of the dictionary of power, exactly.
Yes.
To group it.
Yes, the vital connections. And then things become organized. So what was actually just stuff in that tiny little flat apartment, and then they spread it on a 10,000 square feet warehouse. That becomes so amazingly impressive. And they become aware that how much they already have.
Yes, and also it makes for priority. Because if you'd said, now, I've mentioned this many times, we talked about clearing things out, right? Clearing your wardrobe, I said, don't go and look at your wardrobe and say, okay, I'm going to donate this, I'm going to give this away, I'm going to sell this. No, take your entire wardrobe and go and put it on the front lawn or wherever, right?
Yeah.
Like in this warehouse. Then decide what you want to put back in your closet,
Yes.
because the calculation is different. When you've got to make an effort to put it back, it tells you how important it is. Yeah.
Exactly.
Now,
Exactly.
when we talked about clearing specifically, and this came up with you and your zillion bangles that you had, right? I said, when you are throwing the things out associated with something personally that you wish to throw out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, you bring up the main point here is that in the same way as this applied to physical things, we need to do the same with our psychological, spiritual issues, attitudinal issues, mindsets, beliefs, techniques, strategies. And what's useful is every now and then clear the entire house out and put it in that warehouse, and then put it back what is valuable. Because when you put it back, you have to reassess it from scratch. Now we may have something that, oh, this was a good mindset and a good attitude, but now that I think about it, it's been updated. There's a better version. I don't really need it anymore, right? And we don't sit with all this junk that's building up inside us. So very, very powerful point. Very, very powerful point. Plus, the key to all of this is to understand that we want to get to a point where we are motivated not by emotions. Huh? You might say, what do you mean motivated not by? Isn't that what motivation is? Feeling like doing something?
Yeah.
It is, but it's only because that's our default. Can you be motivated by something simply because it is sensible and right to do, right according to you? In other words, that it has a moreness reason. It's there for because of attunement, because it makes total sense. Whether you like or want to do it or not is irrelevant. But once you connect to how necessary it is and how truly important it is according to you, then the motivation will automatically follow. How do you not want to do what is truly important? It's not possible. So my point is, we are typically motivated by emotions because that's how we start in life, all emotional. But we can learn to shift, and we need to learn to shift to being motivated by sensibility, integrity, conscience, in other words, super sensibility, in other words, sobriety. When we can have sobriety as our motivation, life becomes very, very easy because we do what we need to do and we enjoy doing it. Yeah, because we're so clear about our intent and we realize that sobriety overrides emotionality. Emotionality is not very sensible most of the time. Yeah. It's a very petty mechanism. So we can start to update that and start to reassociate our
Not
motivations
petty, but not
with
well
sobriety.
defined.
Correct. But sometimes they become petty because of the lack of well definition. That's what I mean. So it's just important to understand that we can shift the starting point of our motivations, not have to start with motivation with mood and feeling, but to start with necessity, start with importance, start with integrity, start with what's right for us, start with our conscience, in other words, and our super sensibility and connection to the universe, etc. Now we're motivated in a whole different way, and life becomes
Yes.
very easy.
So
Sure.
just connecting it to, just
go ahead.
connecting it to back what you were saying in the beginning, that, okay, the unpleasant, the unjoyful, like lack of joyful tasks,
Exactly.
any task which lack in joy, we get overwhelmed by that. We get demotivated by those tasks. And this actually, I saw that in play because the whole family was struggling with this stuff in their house. And but when actually what the people who were helping them, what actually they did, they just took out everything and just put it on display so they can actually see that how much they have. That's the only task it was needed. But because it was not joyful as doing shopping all the time, searching for things was not joyful. Organizing things was not joyful as compared to doing shopping again. They were not doing that. And that was the whole issue and the problem. So that is something, yes, it makes sense now complete to me. Okay, sure. Please continue.
Well, just want to comment from Sher. just how this applies. And I want to just add to what I was saying also, that when we shift to being motivated by integrity, everything shifts. Because when we come to those things that you think are unpleasant to do and you don't want to do, especially the start of a big project, yeah, that very first step, if you ask the question, how can I justify not doing this? Entirely different question. So when we look at motivation, we're usually asking, why do I need to do this? But if you ask the question, how can I justify not doing this? Now I am introducing this concept of strategic leverage, self-leverage, right? This is a self-leverage technique, because I can't really, it's a big hassle, it's a big deal, I don't feel like doing it now, I'm all focused on my emotions. But when I switch it around and I focus on my integrity and I say, how can I justify not doing this? Oh, I can't. Now I'm in a quandary, because now if I don't do it, I'm going to feel bad for not doing it, because I know I need to do it. And my integrity says that it has to be done. So I'm going to feel really bad if I don't do it. And this is going to start pressuring me, the feeling bad, as opposed to feeling bad about doing it. See? I just turn it upside down. It's a most profound mechanism.
I have a news for you.
Yeah.
I have seen people who feel really bad about not doing things, but is still not doing it.
I know, and they suffer. And they suffer. And they suffer. Okay, so we must never underestimate the capacity of human beings to willingly endure suffering. It is an inordinate capacity, and that goes with free choice. It just proves that choice is truly free.
Yes.
Yeah. So yes, we can be ridiculously foolish when it comes to enduring suffering. Yeah. It's like we don't get it. We don't get it. We don't get it. We turn suffering into a egotistical affair of self-importance. Look how wonderful I am. Look how much I'm suffering. Ego is totally crazy. So I'm keen to hear from Sher. I'm keen to hear from Sher. Any comments, Sher? Any comments?
First off, wow, Beena, on that apartment, I've run into places like that. Yeah, with people. So anyway,
I like that little sigh that you started with.
well, because I mean, that is not an easy question to ask me.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not, because guys, I mean, you know that, how much of my life does this apply to? That one key point, you know, that whole shifting and switching, and the biggest one right now I'm going to tell you is the boundaries.
Yes.
I mean, it literally applies to boundaries.
Yes.
Not just in how much I'm going to give away of myself, but how much I'm going to give to, you know, like say my grandson, how lenient I'm going to be there, what I'm going to tolerate, what I'm not going to tolerate, you know, cutting out the BS out of my life, which is in many ways, like what you were both just talking about, cutting out all the BS, minimizing all that emotionality, all of the excess, the stuff that we don't need. You know, to me, I suppose writing is kind of like putting it all out on the lawn. You know, talking about it, drawing
exactly.
about it,
It is. It's exactly that. Yeah.
It's all about putting it out there. And when I get stuck, that's when I'm hoarding. That's when I am hanging on to things that I am just being reluctant and resistant to letting go. That's all being stuck is for me. You know, when people say, oh, you know, I'm stuck, I don't know what to do, I can't move forward. Well, you're hoarding. What are you holding back? What are you holding back? Yeah. So when I find out what I'm holding back, then I can make that shift. I can go, well, why would I want to hang on to this? It's not doing me any good, but making me sad and weighing me down.
Exactly.
When I shift that perspective, it makes it a lot easier to set a boundary, to let things go. And letting things go, by the way, as I've discovered for myself, that's a personal boundary. When we make those choices to hold on to things that are hurting us, we're not setting that boundary with ourselves, but when we do let it go, we are. So, yeah, that's my comment. This is really fascinating. I'm enjoying listening.
Yes, this is okay. Sure, as you mentioned boundaries, because this is something I was, I cannot say that I was struggling because I was not aware of it, that it was actually lack of a sense of boundaries I have. So for me, it was like, oh, I'm doing good, I'm being nice. So for me, it was not a struggle even because I was not aware of it. But yes, this was the thing. And when I start doing that, I become really awkward into stating my boundaries. Because whenever someone, when I feel that, okay, it's been like really invaded or response, uh, I get awkward in my own understanding. And I was like, okay, it's not comfortable to share that, okay, this is my boundaries. And things get really not so pleasant because for me, it was not unpleasant at least because I don't want to hurt anyone. For me,
Right.
well, most important things are humans. So, okay. So I was compromising and then coming back and then, of course, stating my boundaries. And then, okay, yes, but people around me, the conclusion I was having is was like, okay, yes, the people around me, they are so important. And yeah, the boundaries idea is good and profound, but we need to be appropriate. And in my case, it's not appropriate. That is something I was doing. So,
Appropriate intolerance.
but then I realized that it
Exactly.
was, sorry, I missed something.
Appropriate intolerance, Sher said.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But later on, as I keep working on that, I realized that it was not others. It was my own awkwardness, which was cueing others. And they were getting that energy that, oh, it's awkward because now, Beena, suddenly you are not actually doing. It was nothing from them. It was my own lack of comfort, lack of trust that, okay, whatever is I'm doing, it has to be innate. It is innate. It is this is where the way things are, because it is exactly like I was wearing uncomfortable or wrong size shoe, so it was biting me.
Yeah.
It was biting me. It was not the fault of that shoe. No, it was because it was new and I was not aware and it was not, so I was uncomfortable into this. And of course, it was affecting my energy and it was affecting my mood and everything else. So in my experience, I have learned that more than 80% of this whole idea of boundaries or relationship depends on you. More than 80%.
Yes, it does. Yes,
If you
it
are
does.
comfortable, you are going to exude that energy, which is going to be like for everyone. They become aware even without you saying a single word that no, this is not my place. And it is happening now. It is happening because still I do get awkward because I'm not feeling good. Like do I really have to say it's not good, Beena? It's mean. Okay, you are just taking your time and all these things. So it is me. But every single time at the end of the day, I realize that no, Beena, you were awkward. They were not doing anything.
Yeah, exactly.
When things become so innate, so comfortable with you, that you start exuding that energy, which actually gives a real, clear, precise idea to everyone. They don't get scared, but they just become aware that, okay, no, this is not right. This is not appropriate. And I'm not going to do that. And this is the real key. So I'm getting this. But sometimes, of course, I do get awkward again. So it's a process I'm going through.
Habits.
I think what's kind of spectacular about a boundary is two things. And I know a lot, you guys have probably heard this, where the boundary is not necessarily to protect you from others, but it's there to protect you from yourself.
Yes.
And and what I mean, when I say that, protect me from myself, I'm not in very many ways we can inadvertently self-harm by not setting a boundary, by not saying, you know what, that motivation, let's use that, by not working towards being motivated to do what's right, even though it's a bit uncomfortable, even though we know somebody is going to get upset. I can't tell you how many times I have faced the rage and the wrath of a 12-year-old because I said no, but it was a very healthy boundary, not only for him, but more for me.
There you go. There
And
you
when
go.
when I have to do that, what's uncomfortable, instead of appeasing him, and I say no, and I just kind of brace, because I know, well, brace for impact, because here it comes.
Oh,
But it turns out in the end, there's relief, because
exactly.
then he has learned
Exactly.
something about himself, and then I have added to my strength, my courage, and
Exactly.
that sense of ability, that sense
Yeah.
of, wow, I just did that and I can
Yeah.
do it again.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. All right.
there's
So
a lot of
couple points.
relief.
2 points I want to mention on about trust security, and I'm going to come back to that in a moment. And the first point is about the boundaries and why they are there for ourselves, or at least in a protection from ourselves. First of all, if you don't have a boundary, you make yourself vulnerable just by not having a boundary. Yeah, potentially, because you don't know what's coming. But even worse, a lack of a boundary can be seen as an invitation for
Every
invasion.
time.
Right.
I'm going to tell you, every time it is.
Exactly. All right. Now let's get to trust and risk. If I am hiring a security company, right, and I've got death threats, and not just threats, but actual attempts on my life, and I know these are real, yeah, and I'm forced to get security, I am going to test that security, am I not? My life depends on that security being able to do what they say they will do and supposed to do. I can't just believe them. There's too big a risk to take. I have to test it. Yes? Make sense?
Yes.
It's very important that I want to get that confirmation here, because now we're establishing this as a baseline point to grow on. When we understand this absolute necessity to test what we have putting this profound trust in, we're also going to realize if that test fails, and I am now stuck with the security that I've hired, it's too late for me to find a replacement, or I don't have already paid all my money to, I just don't have an option. I'm stuck with them. Now I might be a bit angry that, hey, you know what, you guys said you're going to do this, but you're constantly showing that you sort of fail on the job. The invader got in or whatever, right? Luckily it didn't end up in disaster, but hey, I'm still feeling very vulnerable because I don't have confidence in your ability to do what you're supposed to do. This is the core issue of children, particularly children who grew up in their very early stages, where they were unable to legitimately trust, right? Where the parenting, there was no parenting, it was deficient, it was absent, it was lacking, it was horrible, right? So now there is already a deep association with authority, and authority isn't what it's supposed to be, and it lets you down. So anybody coming afterwards is in that same lumped category. So you have to not only demonstrate that your abilities and skills and competence and integrity, but you have to do so repeatedly over and over and over to overcome that initial association, which is valid in the experience and it's valid in life in general, but not valid when it comes to you. So just be aware that if our trust has been abused when we are vulnerable, like if I'm hiring a security company and they fall down on the job, they're abusing my trust in them, I am potentially going to be angry. Right, not everybody, but potentially so, and legitimately so too. And of course, I'm going to continue to test it until I'm satisfied, that it's real. So just to put things in a greater context, does that help a bit, Sher, in terms of motivation?
Yes. I guess I'm sorry. I guess I'm just a little confused though, because I believe anyways, I'm okay with my motivation.
Yeah. Well, you are. I just meant it in terms of maintaining our motivation. Like in your case, oh, you're absolutely a genius at motivation. But sometimes it's like, ugh, here we go again. But when you realize the necessity for it from the other side, and the necessity for the irrationality, as it were, or the apparent irrationality,
I got you.
it is
Okay.
that test for. So now I'm a bit more motivated to deal with it because I understand it. And see,
Yeah.
so this is understanding is a profound mechanism for motivation. So it's just
It is.
to for you as a mechanism to reduce the tiresomeness of it. When you truly understand, now you're doing a public service, or at least a service in that particular context, by saying, okay, I get it, you're testing my authority, you're testing my sobriety, you're testing my sensibility, legitimately so, because you are dependent on me. Fine. And I'm going to continue. So when it comes to boundaries, I was really not so much regarding it to motivation, but to the point about boundaries, the need for strong boundaries, that your boundaries aren't being tested from the outside. They're being tested from the
Right.
inside. Yeah. So it's like I'm the king of the kingdom, and my citizens say, oh, you put up these nice boundaries to protect us from the barbarians on the outside. But you know what, Kingy, your boundaries look a little bit rubbery to me, and got holes in them. So let me go and test this. Yeah, and now I feel safe because I've tested those boundaries. Now, all right, you've got some citizens that have been abused. They've been, invaded and plundered and abused. And okay, now they test a little extra more than the regular citizens. Yeah, so it makes sense, no, that the boundaries are tested from the inside when you're in that position of responsibility, not outside. Yeah. Yeah, very powerful. This is very powerful. And I think we do this with ourselves too. Internally, we want to say, hey, is the things that you think you are doing, are they for real or not? So we do test ourselves too. Yeah, we want to know that we aren't just full of BS and thinking we know stuff, thinking we've got skills. No, I want to see for real that you have them. Right? Yeah. So very powerful, very, very powerful stuff. Very, very powerful stuff. Beena, any more on this? Hang on, there was some comments there, but before we go to comments, I want to hear from Beena.
I was just listening and enjoying this.
All right,
Yes.
all right. Then can you read Ramzi's comment there? I think it's well to go back up there. All right. So let me see. Ramzi says, I believe motivation is all about foreseeing the end goal and the result we will reap from our actions. When we live the results in our mind, when we live the results, in our mind, motivation will be automatically triggered and there would be no room for procrastination. Exactly. Very important. Very important. And yes, Ramzi, we missed you and glad you missed us. Take motivation to the social level, I think one will be demotivated. I think the majority of people are born negative, whether they are conscious of that or not. I don't know if they are born negative necessarily. They're just low energy. And because it's easier to be negative than it is to be positive. Yeah, it's just the reality of things. So low energy leads to negativity. It's quite amazing. So Norma says she thinks so too. And Ramzi goes on to say, motivation, I think, should only be embraced inside and never shared. Now, that's an interesting point. Whenever I hear should, I'm always cautious, Ramzi, by the way. For me, whenever there's a should in a sentence, I'm like, whoa, wait a second. Yeah. I don't care for that term too much. So I understand how you're using it, though. But yeah, anytime we're getting things that are telling us to should, then it's the same as saying it's coming from outside. But I don't know about never sharing our motivations. I'm with Norma. Yeah, I'm keen to know more. Why? Because it flourishes better. All right. So yes, we can diminish a motivation by sharing it prematurely, not necessarily later, but prematurely, because motivations are very delicate and they change as we go along. So I do something because I'm motivated, but then my motivations change and I no longer do it. But if I've shared my motivation, it's hard to explain why it's changed. So yeah, maybe if shared, it gets lost. It can get diluted, it can get questioned, etc. Yeah, it loses its shine and energy through criticism, correct. But, I would hope that if one is motivated purely and impeccably, that criticism is totally irrelevant. It can only strengthen our motivation because it's, okay, I got some holes. All right, well, let me fix those. And so you see, so when we use it that way, it becomes powerful. And Norma says, I use music and singing. Yeah, criticism drains energy. Absolutely. 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 However, critique does not necessarily do so. Criticism is a breaking down with a point of breaking down, whereas critique is providing insight for the purpose of adding and building. Yeah. So different motivations underlying it. And they make all the difference in the world. All the difference in the world. So when we get appropriate feedback on what we're doing, insight, discernment, awareness, understanding, that only helps. This is what we're doing here. Some people might take what we're doing here as super critical on themselves. Yeah, or just how they hear things, because they're sensitive and they know they're doing things that according to them they shouldn't be doing, not according to me. And that's the only time you can say should is legitimate, is when it's internally applied. Other than that, you're trying to tell somebody else how to live. I can't say how you need to live. That's up to you to decide. I have no idea. All right. Any more on this before we actually start reading some story? I am keen to get to that. I am keen. Beena, sure?
Nope, I'm good.
All right. Yes. You ready to read, Beena?
No, please continue because I'm eating and then I will continue.
Then you're not ready
Yeah.
to read. Okay.
Like
See,
I
see,
say,
see.
I'm the same
Do,
way.
do,
I was
do, do you see
trying to
how
get my
beautifully?
lunch.
Yeah. Do you see how beautifully Beena says that? She doesn't say, "No, I'm not ready." Oh, you continue because I'm eating my lunch. Yeah. No. Very good squirm there. Are you eating as well? Then I'll have to read. Yeah. So I was gonna. I
Yes.
was. All right. Okay. All right.
Yeah, it's my
And that-
lunchtime.
yeah. I hear you. I hear you. Ursula needs us, says Norma. Criticism is irrelevant, but it is recorded, though, in our subconscious, whether we want to or not. Social pollution. Yeah, we can learn to filter. We can learn to filter. Yeah, that's true, Ramzi, in general, but it doesn't mean it's always true. And we have to be very careful of making a generalization into an absolute, because that will really get us into trouble. So, this whole story, in its course format like this, is part of the Moreness project. The intent of the Moreness project is exquisiteness, and particularly gaining and connecting to our exquisiteness of being. Yes. Ramzi says, I guess Beena is ready to sing the reading. That would be great. But she's first got to eat. But this exquisiteness of being, this is in things like not taking something that is generally true and making that mistake of assuming it is always so. Our exquisiteness says no, right? Just because it's generally so doesn't mean it's always so. And we want to keep that in mind. We don't want to live according to generally, because this is the whole point of this, is to get into the moreness, which is not general, right? We want to get to that extra. That extra is most important. All right. So Biella says she's busy discussing here, and they're talking about preemptiveness and how the new nobility don't always preempt and why. Says, I'm venturing into fine details, even though this is somewhat uncomfortable for me. Sometimes I feel I might be showing off, but I wish to assure you I'm only doing so to illustrate what's going on inside. Now, she's making a subtle point here in a very roundabout way. She is preemptively making sure that when she does share her moreness, that first of all, she's got to show the mandate of the new nobility. They don't have egos. Egos is like Ramzi, long since thrown it away, right? So when we throw away ego, we don't get upset when somebody comes and shares their moreness, because moreness is and moreness in the superiority paradigm leads some to feel, by contrast, because they have that comparative mindset, oh, I see your moreness. Oh, by comparison, I'm nothing, and suddenly they feel less. And she doesn't want that. right? She knows this is going to likely happen, and if she doesn't do something to prevent it from happening, because she is aware, not just of her moreness, she has to be, she's honest, but that of the new nobility entirely, right? This is their lives, this is what they do, and it's very easy for those in the superiority paradigm to start comparing and feel less. But she's saying, look, I'm not saying this because I'm doing it for the usual motivations to say, oh, look how clever I am, look how exquisite I can be, look how discerning I can be, look how fine points I can be, look how much extra. None of it is ego-based. It is all about the appropriateness in the circumstance. And also, the new nobility go into those extra because they take joy in it. It's what they're all about, right? So she has to do this to say that I am going into fine details and making this extra because it's what we do and it's appropriate. So don't take it the wrong way. Very, very important point that she's making. This is a sad thing, unfortunately, for many people. They cannot learn because those that they could learn from, or any situation they learn from, they want to pull it down and say it's nothing, because if they leave it as something more than them, they feel less than by comparison, and therefore they can never do that. It's just horrible. So comparative mindset, no, it has to go. It has to go. It's a very important thing. So very cool, very cool. Just important we understand this, and we're not affected by this mindset, because it's a horrible mindset and we lose a lot from it. Biella goes on. Now she's coming to the fine point, the fine details, to get back to preemptive comments. If we deny others the opportunity to discover those extra meanings and awarenesses which come to light when they express themselves, we are not only doing them a disservice, but ourselves as well. In other words, if she were to preemptively say the fine points, the extra meanings, and not leave it for somebody to, because she can see where it's going in their own expression. She could easily say preemptively, oh, okay, but she's now denying them the opportunity to get there. But she's saying that you're not only denying them that value, but yourself as well. This is why we choose not to pre-answer when we can. Biella deliberately kept her explanation as short as possible. She didn't say why it's also a disservice to ourselves, right? She didn't elaborate on that. That's a question somebody could ask there. But why to ourselves as well? I understand why it's a disservice to the person expressing, yeah. But why to ourselves as well? We'll come back to that. We'll see. Likely it's going to come up, or maybe in the toss and exercises. Keep in mind, and forgive me if I overemphasize, but remember appropriateness and its key importance to the new nobility. Appropriateness dictates we adapt and shift as needed. While I will maintain the overall objective in awareness and come back to it, I'll also explore the side paths presented as they appear, as I just did. So now she's providing an alternative motivation besides the one that she says, I'm going into the fine details because I need to, I'm not doing it. My motivation isn't to show off or present my ego. But she didn't say exactly why she's doing it either. She just said, why not? And now she's giving the reason. The reason is appropriateness. This is a non-egotistical reason. It's a reason that is acceptable to the superiority paradigm mind, that is a reason that is outside of the paradigm, that but still acceptable. So this is very important. Oh, please.
All right, so it just popped into my head when you were talking.
I love it.
Because of appropriateness. So whatever's appropriate to me may not be appropriate to someone else.
Exactly.
So is that my ego? I mean, do you see where I'm going with that?
Could be, but not necessarily. This is why we want to learn to practice discernment and that sobriety. In other words, exactly.
Because of context. Okay.
Exactly. And also to be able to analyze things more objectively. When we are using our personal emotions and feelings as the basis for our motivations, for our decisions, this is purely subjective.
That's right. Okay. That's right. because that's when you're using your emotions, when you're coming from your emotions, you're not really able to clearly think things through.
Exactly.
Not
And
at all.
how do you, right? And how can I say how I feel about it is something that applies to you?
Yeah, there you
I
go.
have no idea, and your feelings and emotions I know are typically different. But when it comes to objectivity, there are reasons that logic and rationality and sensibility define. Yeah, and I can assume, well, you want to stay alive, you give every evidence of wanting to stay alive. So if this makes sensible in order to keep you alive, whether you now want to do this or not, it doesn't matter. Objectively, it makes sense within that context. Yeah. So this Ramzi says, one man's meat is another man's poison. Grin, mine, I am vegan. Very funny, Norma. Yes, it is. It is an emotional, psychological, and spiritual poison to you. Very beautiful. And it's very, very powerful. Exactly. 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 Very, very, very powerful there. So this is the key, what I was saying earlier on. When we really understand how much we are limited when it comes to emotional decision making, it is horrible when you start to realize it, oh my goodness. And then too, like you just said, if I make an assessment, to answer your original question, if I am making an assessment for another based on my own emotional response, it's purely egotistical, because my ego says, well,
Yes,
of
it
course,
is.
others think like me, others are like me. My
Yes, that
way
is.
of
That's
doing
true.
things is the only way. I
Mhm.
can't imagine that others could be utterly different. Yeah, it doesn't apply
Right.
to
That's
others.
why I keep trying to teach my grandson that
Yes.
any decision, any choice that he makes based on emotions,
Yeah,
that's, those decisions and choices, those are permanent. So to
exactly.
never make them from the emotions, and that was the one and only way that I could get through to him, that,
Yeah,
he cannot keep acting out of emotionality. So
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's a poor mechanism. How did you mean they permanent? Can you elaborate on that? It's not necessarily obvious in the context here.
all right, well, when he rages, he
Yes.
picked up a chair and he threw it, and it put
Oh,
a
oh,
great big
oh.
hole in the wall.
The
That's
consequences are
that's
permanent.
acting.
Yeah.
That's acting on emotion.
Yes, the
I mean,
consequences are permanent. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Well, the choice is that
yeah.
right there when you make that choice, it's
Correct,
permanent. I mean, that's it. It's
correct.
done.
Exactly,
You made your
exactly,
choice. You can't take it back. Like with what you
exactly,
say, what you do,
exactly,
who you
exactly.
hurt, we
Yeah,
can't change a second ago.
right. And here's the key: when you make emotional decisions, they are hard to justify in retrospect.
Mhm. Very, very, very.
So,
Yeah. People do
so
that
when
all
you
the
look
time when they break up with each other, and then they're like, "Well, I was just mad." Well, too bad. We're done now.
exactly, exactly, and so when you can't justify it, then you have to live with making a foolish decision. In other words,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
Ramzi says, one man's cabbage is another man's radish. Well, to me,
Radish.
they both rubbish. Sorry, I mean both cabbage, both radish. Yeah. So.
Wait, I like those both.
I
Let me
can't.
guess, you like
I don't.
Brussels sprouts.
Oh, absolutely hell no. That's just as terrible.
Okay, neither do I. Okay, you're right.
Okay.
They smell like feet.
Try another vegetable. Keep going.
Try
Keep
another
going.
vegetable.
Yeah. Till you
Okay,
find one that
okra.
I do like. Hell no.
Okra. Okay, neither me either. Green beans, carrots,
Hell
peas.
no, hell no. Oh, all right, carrots. Yeah, 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 yeah. Carrots and gem squash is about the only vegetables
That's
I eat.
interesting. So, do
Yeah.
you like spaghetti squash? You ever had it?
I
Is it
could eat it.
tangy?
Yeah, but yeah, let's say I don't enjoy it. It's like, yeah, it's all right,
Okay.
but yeah, yeah, yeah.
Tomatoes?
Yeah, tomatoes is a fruit, not a vegetable.
Well, everybody says that, and it's like
Yeah,
I don't get
yeah,
it.
yeah,
I don't see
yeah.
it, but
Yeah, well, it falls into vegetables. Yeah, so well, it's more falls into salad, I guess. But all right,
relax.
iceberg lettuce, and tomato
Yeah.
only salad. That's it. That's it for salad,
Yeah,
and,
see, and I won't touch
and not
iceberg. To
together,
me, it's
and
just
not together,
like eating paper towels.
not together. They
Uh-uh.
must be separate for me. Yeah. So yeah, I don't eat many vegetables. Sorry, vegetarians, just doesn't work for me. I mean, it tastes like I'm eating poison. Like to eat cabbage, I don't know. I might as well just be eating stuff that's using dishwashing liquid as my syrup. No, sorry.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it tastes horrible. That's dreadful, 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 dreadful. My tongue doesn't work on it. So who knows? Who knows? Liver, same thing. Oh my God, terrible. Oh.
Okay, I can't handle liver. No, thank you.
Yeah, liver, kidney, no, I don't know. I don't know
It's
how
just
people.
gross.
And you know what's so funny is my father's a complete omnivore, and same with my brother. My mother, not as much as them, but she eats pretty much most things too.
Mm.
But literally, they were. I mean, like we would joke and say, "Oh well, got leftovers. Oh, don't worry, put it in the fridge, Francois will eat it." And lo and behold, he would. Yeah. I mean, I remember he was experimenting with peanut butter and see what he could put with peanut butter, combine with it. Bananas, pickled onions. He put pickled onions, I remember. In that particular experiment, it was pickled onions
Pickled
and
onions.
with
That's
peanut butter. Yes, a sandwich. Peanut butter and pickled
That's-
onions. He thought it was great.
That's weird. I
Well,
can't
so's my
imagine
brother. But
that's. Yeah, I was gonna say I can't imagine the taste or the texture making
no,
a combination that's
no.
edible.
But such was his omnivorosity. Oh, nice word, Syl. Right? That
Yeah.
he could do that. That he could make such experiments. His taste buds were that open that he could, and it was fine by him. It may not be something that he made an effort to do, but it didn't matter. I think he could eat
No,
anything.
he don't.
It really didn't matter. It's true omnivore. Didn't really matter. It's quite brilliant.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you're eating shami kebab sandwiches. Okay. Those are vegetarian kebabs, right? Well,
See, that's kind of like what I would eat. I am not probably what they would consider fully vegan because I do eat
ah,
eggs, but
ah,
I just I don't like meat. I don't like
yeah,
the smell
yeah,
of it.
yeah,
I think it's
yeah.
yuck.
Wow.
I
Wow.
do.
Interesting.
And chicken is
Interesting.
the worst.
Eggs, as if I understand this, are quite interesting in the vegan logic. Depends how you are a vegan. And if you're a vegan because you're against killing life, then eggs aren't necessarily a problem, because what do you do if you own chickens? Like Erica. Erica's vegan and she
Wow.
owns chickens. And she doesn't cook her chickens, obviously, right? I mean, the chickens are her friends,
Right.
but the chickens abandon those eggs. If she doesn't eat them, they're going to go bad.
Hmm.
So this doesn't
Yeah.
go against your vegan philosophy of not killing, right? So
Right.
there's no reason not to eat it. And likewise, vegans can eat animals that die of old age. It's
Yeah.
not that they're against meat, they're against killing. People make the mistake of misunderstanding this, right?
Yeah. See, in mine,
So
it's just against the smell of it. I can't
right,
seem
right,
to
right.
wrap my
Exactly.
brain around the idea that I'm
Right,
eating
right,
something that
right.
I'm not supposed to be.
Right. Exactly. I'm making the point because on our general point here, it's about discernment and exquisiteness. So when we're
Yeah.
looking to apply this, you don't like meat, not because it's a philosophical issue, but because it's a pure personal taste issue. And it's very
Yes.
good to be clear about such discernments. But veganism is very interesting, that vegans are quite free to eat meat if they die of old age or accident, right? Like roadkill. You can eat roadkill, no problem.
Ugh. Yuck, yuck, yuck. Good.
Yeah, I understand, but my point is philosophically, it's okay. Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. I'm green.
Yeah, right. So it's just interesting how emotionality affects taste.
Yeah.
And
Well, that's
I find
true.
particularly with eating, it's profound. If you serving somebody a nice meal, right, like okay, a stew, and man, this is delicious. Where did this come? Oh, it's roadkill. Ew.
Yeah.
It was nice a second ago, but your ideas changed the reality. It
Yes.
shows us the power of emotion and
And
how
association.
that can change exactly an association and beliefs, how our reality can change as a
Uh-huh.
result of them. And
Absolutely.
truly, I feel that our end goal is to say, okay, it was roadkill and I enjoyed it, and so what? Yeah, to have that ability to not be affected. I know it is difficult because some things are very visceral and thing, but we need to get to that point of rationality. It's a skill. It can be done. I know this from personal experience. It's not easy, but it can be done. It can be done. It is the point of squeamishness, yes, and the necessity for being ruthless, the sobriety of ruthlessness, right, or the ruthlessness of sobriety. We need that. We need that. We need that. Otherwise, we can get into really serious trouble. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, about just want to add something about vegans, because there are different types. One is like, okay, ethical vegans, and they have a different
Correct.
philosophy. And then
Correct.
some
To
are
health
stay
vegans. Correct. Correct.
Yes,
Yeah.
so it is
Okay.
about like, okay, they are ethical vegans. They don't mind actually, but it is just the matter of ethics that they don't
Yes.
want to eat a different type, any living
Yes.
being. So it is a
Yes.
different choice and different philosophy was there.
Yes.
Of course, I do
Yes.
respect a lot. I'm not
Yes.
vegan. I'm not even a vegetarian.
Yes.
But as
Yeah.
Syl was saying things, and I was like, come on, like
Yes.
I'm having my dinner, and you are just getting into it.
All right. So Ramzi's last point there is a big point. Yes. And our
Yes.
theme here is exquisiteness. And we want
Mhm.
exquisiteness of discernment. Yes, like Ramzi
Right.
says, if you're a vegan, you cannot, if you're just farming vegetables, you can't help killing. Yeah, whenever you harvest, you're going to destroy the homes and livelihood of insects that live off the plants that you do. It's not possible to avoid killing. And this
Yes.
is the Jainists. I might be mispronouncing it. Jain. I think a Jian. Anyway, it's a sect, a religious sect in India.
Oh, Jains. Okay, they are
Jains,
Jains.
right. Right. So so to be a Jainist, in other words, right? They practice taking not killing to the absolute extreme. And so they will
Yes.
walk around and they're like, the wandering monks type thing, and they'll walk around with brooms and sweep the path in front of them. So of course, over the centuries, this was all accepted, and oh, look how nice you are and how considerate you are to the creatures, right? But then the scientists came along later on and said, look, guys, sorry, but actually your sweeping kills more than if you were to just walk. Yeah, because when you walk, you kill only what's underneath your foot. But now when you sweep, you are killing so much more because your sweeping is much broader and more comprehensive than just where your footprints are. So this kind of killed that logic. You can't help killing no matter what you do. It's not possible. It's just not possible. So it all depends on what scale. So the point about not killing is not about not killing. It's to not kill wantonly, indiscriminately, without logic or reason. If I'm scratching my armpit and I'm killing whatever's making me itch, sorry.
Yeah.
It's not wanton or indiscriminate. It just happens to be. Right?
I'm sorry. Yeah, there's certain things that I'm just not going to live with. Bugs included. I will not live with roaches.
Mosquitoes. Exactly. They
Roaches.
are. Exactly.
No, thank you. There's just some things, bed bugs. It's like, come on. There's some things you just
exactly
humanly we know not to live with.
Right. Now let's look at this from the universe's point of view. And apply this from a unability perspective of how they would deal with it. Right? They would say, we can't avoid this, but we don't want to do it wantonly either. We want to have everything, and part of our impeccability is to pay due respect to everything. Sorry, mosquito, you choosing to feed off me and live and use me as food, and it's unpleasant to me. That's tough luck for you. Yeah, this is not the system that we can coexist in. So I have no qualms in getting rid of you, none whatsoever, right? I can justify my behavior. It's appropriate, in other words. And now they start to look at killing and all of the things that we do in the light of appropriateness. Is it necessary? Is it justifiable, right? And they get really serious into this because they also say, wow, we have to give this concept of reincarnation very serious thought. There's no specific proof for it, but it really makes sense. If you were to think that the universe is predicated on awareness, This they know as a fact because they've tested it and experienced it, right? And they can show you how to go and test this, and you can prove it for yourself very easily, that everything in the universe is geared towards the enhancement and development of awareness. So now you would think, yeah, but to give me only one lifetime to do this, that doesn't seem to make sense from the universe's point of view. So in light of their understanding that the point and purpose of the entire universe and life is the enhancement and development of awareness, reincarnation becomes a very sensible thing, that you get a do-over. But you get to keep the core points that you've learned, but you let go the memory. It's basically what reincarnation is like when you do a clean reboot of your computer, right? Why do you do this on your computer? Because you're getting rid of all the junk stuff that's accumulated over time, right?
Yeah.
So we can say reincarnation is the same thing. You keeping your essential stuff, like your data files, this you can get to keep, right? Or the operating system, which has gotten upgrades, yes, that you keep, but you lose all the nonsense, right? So this is the same principle. So now there is a very deep logic to reincarnation, yes. But now I'm going in a long way to come back to their really deep thinking about killing and vegetarianism. Say, wow, over time we've lived shorter lives. We're living much longer than we lived before. Plus, where do all the souls go? Maybe there's a backlog for things to be reincarnated. So part of hunting is you provide scope for reincarnation. You provide opportunity for it. If we had to stop killing and all those creatures would go out of existence, the higher level creatures, which they weren't before, right? Nature reserves also part of this necessity. So if we take away that, then we also are changing the whole cycle of reincarnation. We may be affecting that. Now, I don't want to go into this too much, but it's a very deep policy that they have, a really thought through policy that really shifts the whole logic to stuff. Now, in this particular environment, they don't actually need to eat meat, actual killing meat, because with the 3D printing, they are able to replicate it from gene cells, right? Just from a stray hair, you can grow in a vat, and there's no life involved. It's just growing the meat. Yeah. So all right. So they don't have to do that, but still, it's a deep thought for them.
Yes, what you are sharing, Syl. But of course, I'm going to discuss it more, of course, later, not now, because it is actually where you are actually like hitting. It is a big point. Sometimes, of course, it's a bubble, and we don't want to, as Sher was saying that, okay, we don't want to know mostly, and this is something we choose, and whatever we just don't know, it doesn't exist. Okay, this is how
there it is.
Yes. But I realized this, that when your bubble actually popped, I used to post, of course, you know that, Sher, very well, that, okay, I do change my profile pictures. I just borrowed this idea from my friend Ellen. And I used to have like really big description also about that. But now I'm just doing that according to my mood, according to attunement, and sometimes just coming up something, feelings and all sort of things.
Randomness.
So, but in the, not random, but okay,
sometimes,
yes, it is connected.
Sometimes.
Yes, yeah. But in the past, I used to post a lot of tribal areas, villages, girls and women and men, of course, everyone. I used to post. And someday I just realized that their eyes are different than other people. And then I start paying attention. And the more I pay attention to, and it was like really connecting to what those eyes were telling me, because it was not just in few pictures, it was common among all those people's pictures, what I was posting, like they are living in rural areas or villages, all that. And the moment I feel that connection and the moment of realization that those innocent, in my mind, innocent looking faces and like beautiful faces were telling me something which I was not comfortable with, which was out of my awareness before. And that was the moment my whole perception, you can say that my whole worldview changed at that time. And then I realized that yes, I was living and I was focusing on things which I know and I'm aware of. But of course, this is not the whole reality. The world out there has something else. For me, it can be like, oh my God, it is rude, it is cruel, it is mean, it is dirty. I can say a lot of negative things about that. But does it really? No. Because maybe I am not living as close to as nature or than they might be. And the instincts and every other thing also comes into play. And same with the animals and plants. Yes, the idea of my Disneyland world bubble is so cute and profound. But
Exactly.
what's behind that might not be. And when I
Exactly.
see that, the immediate thought is that, oh, so if the world is not as cute as the Disneyland kind of or Disney World thing, so then it must be cruel. But
Yeah.
who is actually judging all this cruelty? Because no, it was just again
Exactly.
my idea. So again, whatever I was just living in that,
Exactly.
okay, this black and white mindset. But actually, these
Exactly.
are not. So
Yeah.
when it comes to ethics, so that okay, vegans have that. That okay, some vegans are ethical, and of course,
Yeah.
some of my friends are also, and they do have. One of my friend who is also vegan sent me a video where the scientists were actually making it, I don't know, they were using some mechanism to hear the sound of trees and plants.
Yes.
And
Yes. Yes.
especially when they were being cut off and
Harvested. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that was really a
Yeah.
cry. And
Yeah.
if my ethics are going to apply to everything, and if they are
I can't
well thought
live. I
ethics,
can't live.
I can't live. So this
Exactly.
world is
Which
based on,
may be
yeah,
precisely the point of everything that the universe is telling you. You need to develop an alternate reality. This one is unsatisfactory. Your
exactly. And
ideas of reality and our reality creation, because you, the one who's creating this, need updating. You need discernment.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And this whole point of this ethics and of course the reality we are having. I'm kind of losing my point now. So sorry, but you
No, it's
just
all right. Sorry, Beena. Sorry.
it's okay. But the worldview we have and the understanding we have, this whole world is based on survival.
Yeah.
From the plant, from the minerals,
Exactly. That's where you
actually
were
like
going,
from the
Beena.
minerals,
Yeah.
yes, from the minerals to the most privileged species, humans, everything is fighting continuously in fight
Right. For
against
survival, not
nature.
evolution.
Exactly, for this thing. And this is where the question was that
Yeah.
I was thinking about, and I shared with Syl that
Yeah.
what is spirituality actually is.
Right. So,
Because
Beena,
to get over this fighting for survival and
right.
get into the evolution mode, and which is
Right.
of course the moreness.
Right.
Yeah.
So you touch on a big point for the new nobility. They
Yes.
see nature and this typical that situation that we're in as a paradigm that is premised on unethicalness or lack of ethics. Why? Because the nature survival says that there is no ethics in nature. I can eat you, no problem, to survive. In other words, survival has no ethics. Anything is justified in the name of survival. If we are going to live as more, we have to develop a system that says, well, if my life depends on it, I'll eat you. No, says ethics. If my life depends on it, I will not eat you or kill you. I will die rather than do that. Yeah. So when we look at a different system, one that is ethics at its root, if we had to start and create it from scratch, you would not have a system where one thing is eating another, because it would be unconscionable. It would be impossible to do.
Just want to say something. Sorry.
Then we'd have to get into capital C collaboration. Go ahead.
Sorry to disturb you, but this is something, it's a very dangerous perspective, and of course a very could be controversial also. because
Exactly.
when you were saying that, okay, if it is a matter of survival, I can eat you, and of course, like, okay, it is
Right.
just,
Right.
and for a second, it was like really a haunting thought, like, okay, how a person can even think about this. For
Right.
me, it's like giving me a heartache, like, oh my God, okay, yes, that this is what
Exactly.
happens. But
Exactly.
Mhm.
but
Exactly.
but
Oh,
but when we think of this whole idea of detachment, that who am
yeah.
I? Who am I? If my ego is not really overriding me, then my being is also as important as any other being.
Exactly. But
And
not
and
necessarily
and that,
more important.
yes, and also that the only influence I can have over anyone is myself. So my
Exactly.
responsibility is to not to try to save anyone else. This is the spiritual concept. Keep it in mind that this is the spiritual
Yeah.
concept. It is
Yeah.
not like, okay, oh, it is something, okay, coming out now. This is a spiritual concept that when myself is not myself anymore, I am in the whole universe, then what is more important than me? Nothing.
Yeah.
I should
Exactly.
protect it as long
Yeah.
as I can.
Yeah.
And so now the whole idea
Yeah.
of the cruel world and the spirituality just merge together. That what they are
Yeah.
doing, which seems like really horrible to me, are
Yeah.
not so noble, all these things. But when you actually look at it in a different format, then everything comes together. The spirituality
Yes.
is coming back to the self again. Yes, it starts from that, okay, try to be selfless, and then
Yeah.
it comes back to the self again, because this is what it is. Oh my God. I'm
Lots
not
of
saying
points
it is
here.
any ego nonsense, but this is so huge. This
No,
is
it's a
so
big point, right?
huge.
And this is, I bring it up because I bring it up in the context of the new nobility,
Yes.
right? It is something they talk about, they think about, and I do this deliberately because I want to avoid personal discussions on such topics because they are sensitive topics. And when we can say, oh, this is what the society thinks about it, it gives us that bit of distance that we can discuss it in not so personal ways, and it makes it much easier to discuss sensitive topics. Yeah. So there's a bit of strategy involved there. I
Yes.
love this. I love this. It's very powerful. And also to think beyond the obvious. Yeah, this is
Yes.
what the new nobility do. They take something and they look at it from multiple perspectives and they invite multiple perspectives. Their entire existence is continually to be exploring more and more perspectives because there's always more. And so they don't really easily make decisions when they don't need to. They only make a decision when they need to because they know the risk involved. You make a decision before you need to, you're making it on partial information, most likely. Yeah. So if I have to, okay, then I'll do my best. But other than that, no, no. So
This is very interesting. And Ramzi also made a point that, okay, he feels that, okay, plants are also aware and they are living beings,
exactly,
creatures.
exactly,
And he
exactly.
says, okay, I always take care of my vines and they are aware. Exactly, because
Yeah,
this is something I'm
yeah,
experiencing also. It was just a fun thing. I just
yes,
plant like watermelons, and every seed actually just sprout, and they are growing. Some of
yeah,
them, of course, they died because of this. They were not the toughest to survive, so only the toughest is
yeah,
surviving there. But as the plant was the vine was growing, they grew up, or what you were calling it, Syl, the thread type of thing.
the tendrils.
Yes, the tendrils, and they always move towards the sunlight and something to hold on. Not only sunlight, but something to
Yeah,
hold on. And the object can be anything. So this is
exactly.
something we need to pay attention to. That
Yeah,
yes, the
yeah,
sunlight makes sense, that because, okay, plants are designed in a way, but
yeah,
they
yeah,
also look for, literally reach out to
yeah,
hold on to something. And they, of
yeah,
course,
yeah,
they adapt accordingly, because now we have grills in our balcony where the pot is. So the tendrils are moving towards the grill to wrap it around.
yeah,
And some of them are moving towards the curtain. Actually, there was a hanging curtain there, and then they are trying to hold on to that. So I understand that. Okay, I also feel that some level of awareness can be different.
yeah,
Again, I like this term that humans are not necessarily the noble creature, but they are definitely privileged species.
They have the capacity to be noble.
Yes,
It's a
yes,
choice.
yes, and then they are privileged because of abilities, because of skills to learn and grow. They are privileged in the sense,
Exactly.
and also their physicality in the sense that it's not very open to or easy to evolve, but it
Yeah.
has this ability to survive in every condition, and also to act according to their thinking and thoughts. They have this ability to create things more easily than any other
Yes.
species. So
And
that's why it is important. Yes.
And humans have the capacity for conception, particularly
Yes.
abstract overview conception. Look at
And
the
the ability to pursue that.
exactly. Now, one of the key conceptions for the unability is sharing. Yes.
Yes.
Take sharing in nature. No, doesn't happen. Sometimes, but not really. Right. The trees,
Yeah.
even in the background there, they compete for the same resources when they're close to each other, right? They compete for the sun. They don't say, hey, there's plenty sun, let's share. Okay, you're gonna go up, don't come close to me, be a little further. It's blind, it's not there. Okay, don't necessarily have that choice. And for all we know, they might do that. But still, the key point is that, especially with animals that can move, where they have this capacity to share, they don't. Look at when predators make a kill. Some do, like the wild dogs, but the wild dogs are very exceptional, African wild dogs specifically. Yeah. So they've understood a bit about collaboration. So it's not like it's all in nature, but in general, this lack of sharing is very limiting in nature. Very, very limiting.
Yes.
Because it's
Yes.
experimenting, it's testing, it's trying different stuff. It's trial and
Or
error.
maybe they have the concept, but they don't know how to do that. Human
Yeah.
have this ability that they can not only have conceptions, but they can also
Yeah.
pursue it, and they
Yeah.
have their bodies also that
Yeah.
able to act accordingly, so they can actually get some results.
Yeah.
So as you were sharing that, in your childhood or in your school time, people used to call these type of conversation like, oh, heavy stuff, heavy.
Heavy, too heavy.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
this is exactly what is happening today. It's getting like really deep and heavy. Like,
Yes, that's good. It's what we do. It's what we do.
yes.
We don't shy away from it. We go into it. We love it. We want
And
more. We
and
want more. We want
I
more.
must say thanks to you, and of course Sher and
Yeah.
everyone else,
Yeah.
because I can see my own progress.
Yeah.
I can see and of course observe that how much I am actually grown
Yes.
up, and still I'm growing.
Yes.
So that's why I love that.
Yes.
And I'm very thankful to the persistence, because
Yeah.
and also the support from everyone else to keep me going. Okay, yes, pushing me a bit, like, no, just yes, keep going. I would not
Wonderful.
be here. I would not be able to understand what you are saying or sharing
Wonderful.
if I did not persist that. So
All
thank you, universe, for giving
Yeah.
me the support.
Before we go a little further,
Yes.
so one quick point there with Ramzi says about the mosquitoes. He says he doesn't like killing them. He doesn't like, did you say gratuitous killing?
Unnecessarily.
Unnecessary killing, right? But he does eat meat because this is necessary. Now, at least from a point where, yes, in some places where I lived in South Africa up north, where I went visiting occasionally, for long periods of time, where there's malaria, you can't afford to be bitten by mosquitoes. So it becomes a necessity to kill them, because you could end up with malaria or other
This
things,
is
bilharzia, all this, right? So
this is
I'm
what
just
he's
saying,
saying, that yeah, sometimes just let it be that, yeah, if it is
yeah,
unnecessary.
but in a malaria area, you cannot afford to do
Yes,
this.
then it is
Yeah,
necessary. Yes.
precisely. But even in non-malaria areas, mosquitoes are still, like one of the COVID variations is being carried by mosquitoes. So I'm just saying, you got to be careful when it comes to vampire, to parasites. Well,
Yes.
many of them carry diseases. Yeah.
Oh
So
yes. Oh yes.
so
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
again, I'm just saying, yeah, the odds sometimes may be less than in other times, but still, it's not always a luxury that we have, is my point.
Yes.
Yeah.
One of
And
my friends
yeah,
shared a story And he says that his wife and the younger sister of his wife, so they were, so he was cutting fish, and she, that young girl, actually literally freaked out, like, what are you doing? And then they were like, okay. And then she started crying, and they were like, what happened? He says he's killing fish, he's cutting it. And then says, so but you eat meat, so what do you think that, okay, where this meat come from? She says, out of boxes,
Huh. Yeah. Yeah. A
out
lot
of
of people don't
fridge.
know. Awareness. Awareness.
This
Exactly.
this is okay, like right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to, I cannot deliberately kill any
Yeah.
animal easily, but I do eat meat. So it is a kind of like, okay, deliberate unawareness, also hypocrisy, yes, that okay, yes,
But
and
inadvertent
and
hypocrisy.
also deliberately not thinking it through to the end. I'm choosing to not do this, otherwise it will be difficult for me, and I don't want to give up on my taste. Okay, so choices. Sometimes we choose to be unaware or not thinking it through to the end. And also that, okay, it is going to actually result in more bigger problem, because then I have to reevaluate all my ethics, sense of my ethics, sense of morality, sense of my choices and everything. Just one thing is going to actually just give me a big task to do, re-evaluation of myself. And right now I'm not ready to do this.
Very powerful, very powerful. And when we think a bit more about things, it all changes. Now, for the new nobility, all these thoughts on killing and collaboration and cooperation and the way nature is set up, it has led them to the conclusion that they need to develop their conceptuality to the point where they are able to envisage an alternate reality system. It's one of their goals. They're saying this, sorry, but nature, the world, this particular system, no, it sucks. There's a better system. There has to be a better system. This one is not tolerable for us and our ethical position. Yeah, because I can't avoid doing things that I don't want to do. So yes, this teaches me to be ruthless of necessity. But if we could have a system where that isn't necessary, so much the better. Yeah, but will it still lead to leveraging awareness? That's the question. You have to keep the positive and reduce the negative. Is it possible? Maybe, maybe not.
This is actually just when you were saying that, okay, this word is not appropriate for us. This word was appropriate for us, and for, of course, for every human in general, when they were not aware of all these things.
Exactly.
Once you are aware, then of course it is becoming our responsibility to create a new reality.
Yes. Yes.
As coming back to sport again, that okay, if you're not aware, then it doesn't exist. Okay, you don't know, it doesn't exist.
Awareness changes everything.
No. Yes.
Exactly. But Sher was putting it in the reverse. She says sometimes in our exquisiteness of awareness usage, we are going to deliberately be unaware so as to take something out of existence.
Exactly.
This is a very sophisticated usage of awareness.
Absolutely.
It is taking de-emphasis to its absolute maximum.
Nth degree.
Nth degree, precisely. Now, that reminds me, both Beena and Sher, that I have been remiss in something. I meant to do it and I forgot all about it. Where does the prologue end? Do you remember what the very last slide of the prologue is?
I do not.
No, I don't remember.
Anu?
A new you.
Anu says something. A-N-U. Yes, but it's Anu, not Anu. Anu. As the prototype God, right? Anu says, oh, oh, we are observing, and this Biella, she's one that is potentially a culmination of your grand plan. Anu says to Mercury and Jesus, and uh,
Oh,
they confirm this. My point is, right, that in the story it ends where the gods are observing what is going on Nobelia. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I meant to add in during the story or at the end of the chapters to continue this conversation between the gods. And I still mentioned to Beena, I said Nintu is the one who's going to be the principal one involved in this, where in the Council of the Gods story, it's all Jesus and Mercury. Now, they're still involved, of course, but Nintu is now going to step to the fore and be the core one here. But I didn't write it in yet. And this particular discussion that we have now, this is a discussion for them relative to the new nobility, because now it starts to make sense with the whole God gene and it all comes in. So I had this in mind. That's why I brought it up, right? And I was saying, oh, the new nobility discussed this. It's already there, but I just didn't make the connection. But now there's the connection to actually start bringing it into the story now already, rather than waiting for later. Right, via the gods, because that's the whole point of this extra perspective of the gods giving commentary on things is a very important one. So remind me, Beena, this is a project to work on, well, before Sunday, hopefully. Well, it's still the same chapter, but we want to bring it in. We want to bring it in, right? So, yeah, very exciting, very exciting, very exciting. And, I like to discuss things and then write it in, it gives a nice point of view on it. So very, very cool stuff, very cool stuff. I just to summarize all of this for me from this new nobility perspective, it is that you unmuted, Beena. There we go. This discussion that we've had, if you take it in the abstract and you summarize it, it's saying, we are looking at alternate realities and the necessity, not just the desire, but the necessity for alternate reality paradigms. Our purpose for these lives, yes, is to present alternative paradigm possibilities, to say they are feasible, they can exist, they're there. Yeah. Our interactions here is already operating under an alternative paradigm. There's no superiority paradigm, there's no comparison here, there's no competition, and no pulling each other down to make ourselves look better, or all this nonsense. None of that exists here, right? Different paradigm. Even you might say, yeah, but other places I go, it's not there either. Pay attention, it's there very subtly. It's not here even subtly, right? So we don't have this. So it's already an alternative paradigm, but take that to its extreme. And we need to say, oh, wait a second, E equal mc squared. In other words, M is E divided by C squared. Matter is energy, something done divided by a big number. It's energy in some way changed, right? I think of it as slowed down, conceived, paid attention to. So all of matter and that dividing mechanism, I see it as being attention, consciousness, awareness. So it makes the point that we the creators of this reality. Yeah. Now, if we can create this one, of course, means we can create others, or change this one because we change our conceptuality. We change the basic raw programming that everything springs from, right? The core conceptions. This one is predicated on survival, competition, superiority paradigm. If we can change the paradigm, we can change our reality. Yeah. So this is the intent of the new nobility, one of their tasks that they continually work towards. And the gods are going to start coming into this because the gods themselves, while being in an actual different reality, still have got many leftovers from the superiority paradigm, because they're the ones that caused it to be so entrenched in the first place. Yeah. So they have a bit of guilt going on. So it becomes a very interesting discussion where the gods now are going to be learning from the new nobles. Yeah. Exciting stuff. All right. Sher, any comments before we continue reading?
No,
It's time.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to scoot because
Yeah, it's time. It's time. It's time.
Yeah.
So that's that. Let me just check the comments there. Let me comments. Yes, trees are aware. Absolutely. Ah, wow. Oh, any news on Ursula? Ursula is there, biding her time, paying attention. So let's see. Let's see. Let's see. All right, we'll give some more news on Ursula. Okay, next slide. No Ursula. 2 slides. She does come into it. She does come into it very long, yeah.
No, Norma, it seems like that Syl is not willing to give us this prize.
Ah,
So just give us this idea, because now
there,
Ursula is not even in slides.
yeah.
Multiple slides.
Oh, only three, right? But here we come. A slight pause. It's the process by which we reduce our dependency on assumption. Ursula and Comelius both reacted to this, as she had hoped they would. Ursula spoke first. I can see the value of reducing assumption and also the value of extrapolation, but I am not seeing how they are connected. Something had shifted in Ursula in a good way. Ramzi says, Ursula's having a meal. Yes, in abstract ways is precisely what Ursula was doing, right? In a very abstract way, in a conceptual way, Ursula was absolutely having a meal, and it was not necessarily a tasty meal. I'll give you a clue. Yeah. Oh, yeah. But so anyway, this is it. We're at the end of our read through for the week. So hold on.
I just want to ask you something.
Oh.
Okay,
Go ahead.
It is connected, but it is not.
Yeah.
You pronounce it Ursula, and it for me it is Ursula.
Yeah, Ursula, but yeah, the general pronunciation is with the SH sound, Ursula. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Ursula. If you want to get back to its more roots, like as a Nordic name, would be Ursula, as in Ursus, the bear. Yeah. That's where it comes from, right? Ursine means, Ursine is like canine. Canine means dog, right? Feline, cat. Ursine is meaning bear-like, pertaining to bears. But the urs is the root of that in the Norwegian Germanic, urs, right? So Ursula.
Oh, okay. Look what is happening. Ramzi says Ursula is having her meal.
Yes.
And he says, you were watching? And Ramzi says, me? Yes. Okay.
Yeah,
now we are having a different story there.
Yeah. Okay, so extrapolation. I'm going to read this so we can get the comment. Extrapolation, she again dropped on them, but this time immediately continued, is a highly prized and highly developed skill among the new nobility. It is taken to the level of art. We extrapolate everything as a means of extending our awareness. What were we doing earlier, and what was I saying about reality? I took all of our comments on killing and vegetarianism and cooperation and collaboration, everything, and extended it, extrapolated all the way into alternate reality. See? Taking it all the way. A slight pause. It's the process by which we reduce our dependency on assumption. Oh, extrapolation is the process by which we reduce our dependency on assumption. Ursula and Comelius both reacted to this, as she had hoped they would. Ursula spoke first. Ursula. See, I can't say it without the S. Ursula.
Okay, Ursula.
Yeah, either way is good.
Sweet.
Either way.
It sounds sweet, yes.
All right. Ursula spoke first. I can see the value of reducing assumption and also the value of extrapolation. I get both of them. Yeah, they're both important, but I'm not seeing exactly how they're connected. Why, in other words, does taking extrapolation to the level of art reduce a dependency on assumption? But here's the little clue here. Something had shifted in Ursula in a good way. That's just.
She is opening up. She is asking questions openly.
Yes.
So this is the first thing, and I think that maybe we are getting too aware of this. So I feel that extrapolation is of course connected to
So Biella is listening to Norma. through time and through the magic of everything. So this in italics here. Later, Norma, later. Ursula's mystery will have to wait for later, Norma. Be patient. Comelius added, may I say that I see quite well how extrapolation reduces dependency on assumption. Yes, Mr. Clever Guy. He's got a little bit of superiority paradigm. He has to say, I see quite well. Is that academicness of his coming in, right? But he says, if we conceive of time as a whole. Now, he's not really that deeply into it, but there's a little bit. But he makes good points, though. He says, if we conceive of time as a whole, all the delegates' moment agreement, although they didn't seem to exactly follow what Comelius had meant. But when you say it with great authority, people are going to murmur agreement. Oh, yeah, even though they have no clue what you're saying, because they don't want to say, wait, I don't get what you're saying, because they don't want to seem stupid. Yeah, because he's saying it like it's an obvious thing. Yeah, so a little bit of fun there, just a very fine discernment on how people behave and react, right? And Norma, I'm sorry, Biella thinks again, they're excellent. They are with me. And Comelius coming in from the other side, perfect. She wants this, not necessarily others in opposing, but from a different angle. It makes for this stimulation of thinking. Our golden triangle, Biella said. I'm not going to hand this to you on a platter. You need to do much of the work for yourselves, if any of it is going to stick. I need you to fully understand, not just remember, she said matter-of-factly, expressing it for what it was, a thought spoken out loud. For the new nobility, we take those core concepts of ours as far as we can in their application in order to be truly appropriate in any situation. And by situation, I'm including all possible contexts from the immediate to the universal, for that's how the new nobility see it. To be truly appropriate, we cannot come into any situation, with preconceived conceptions or assumptions, or if any are there, we must be prepared to drop them instantly if needed. Biella added, when we're in a situation, we need to be able to see all the elements clearly in order to respond effectively. It's not a problem in static situations, but those are the exceptions. Most are dynamic. In dynamic situations, there's the problem of lag, the time between assessing a situation and coming up with a response. Typically, by the time we've come up with the most appropriate response, one appropriate in all contexts, remember, it's too late. Yes, some of the delegates moment. The solution is extrapolation. Biella continued. The new nobility lived not by reacting to the immediate past, but by anticipating the immediate future. By pre-responding to it, she saw a slight widening in their eyes of Ursula and Comelius, indicating an aha awareness. So I'm not going to go to the rest of this now. I want to stop on this point here because the rest is just a detail. I'm going to summarize it real quickly in this, that if we just react, we have to, because we are using incomplete information as much as what is available, right? When we react, as basically we typically and usually are reacting according to the first and nearest thing that comes up in our minds. And so that reaction is potentially appropriate, but also potentially not. And as we know, it's more often than not, because we haven't had a chance to pick the most appropriate response. We just picked the first and nearest. That first and nearest is built on an assumption. And our picking it assumes that what comes up first is appropriate. Assumption. See, dependency on assumption. When I extrapolate, I'm looking at all the options. Now I can, because I'm ahead of the game, I can start to see what all the choices are, and I can pick the most appropriate choice. I have time to make that pick. When I'm reacting, I have no time. And this forces me to assume that whatever I pick is going to be, never mind the best, it's forcing me to assume even that it's just going to work, where it might not even work. But the fact that I am picking it means I assume it will work. Otherwise, of course, I wouldn't pick it. Yeah. So by extrapolation, this is how we reduce our dependency on assumption, because we have time to explore a wider range of choices and be more thoughtful. And I don't need to assume. When I don't have time to be thoughtful, I'm forced to assume that whatever I do pick is going to be okay. Yeah. Very powerful. Very, very powerful. And so Ursula and Comelius put this together. But I just wanted to read a bit more there for Norma, and to
Okay.
say,
Then
yeah,
Syl,
we
need,
haven't
I need
forgotten
to-
Ursula. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. See, and
Yes.
yeah, Ursula
Okay.
comes back into it again. She brings this up. All right, we're all going to go. It's the time, right? So we're at the end.
Yes.
We're at the end of this, and we're going to continue on Sunday. Yes.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so the return of Ursula is coming closer on Sunday. Okay. So we can maybe title. Well, I don't know. I'll have to look and see. Oh yeah, ethics, Ursula says. So ethics, she starts to engage a bit more now because something has shifted there. So she does take part of the conversation. But I'll look at part 2 and see if I can label it the return of Ursula. But I think the return of Ursula is the chapter after that. Yeah, we shall see. We shall see. I am keen, Norma. I am keen. Ursula's thing, it may even be the chapter after that. I know the next one is Ursula, but it takes a while to really get into the depths of Ursula. Ursula is a massive onion. Yeah. Yeah. She may make you cry a bit in her explanation. We'll see. I don't know, but in a good way, in a good way. All right. A pleasure, Norma, and a pleasure, Ramzi. As always, a massive pleasure that you are here. Yes, both of you. It was a great joy. And thank you, Sher, too. It was so cool that Sher was here, too. I love it. I love it. And thank you to Beena as well. Hungry Beena is going to eat again.
No,
Didn't you say you have to go to eat?
no, I didn't say that.
Oh, then I misheard. Sorry. Oh, just go. Oh, I
Yes.
see. Oh,
This is
I thought you said I have to go eat again. Ah, all right.
because it was all ethical, unethical. It just took away all the fun and joy of all these.
No, ethical is fun and joy.
No, I was just kidding. No, actually.
Yeah.
So yes, everything is good. I just love today's conversation.
Oh,
It was
so wonderful.
fun and enjoy. And also
Yes.
that it actually, I
Moreness.
would be feeling that, okay, that yes, the mind is expanding, the awareness is expanding.
Exactly.
And also the receptivity is
Exactly.
expanding. This is the
Exactly.
key. This is the key.
Exactly.
That yes,
But
we can be aware of few things, but still we can have resistance towards that. But when your
yeah,
receptivity expand, then you can like literally
yeah,
enjoy the
yeah,
whole conversation, whole
yeah,
interaction.
yeah.
conversation.
And
So yes,
very
all good.
yeah, and very important based on what you're saying now. Look at what we did today. We did something very, very, very important. We discussed widely differing topics, and some of us have very different perspectives on it and different beliefs associated. Not only different beliefs, but different actual practices and applications. But we were able to discuss without insisting our personal point of view is the truth, the reality. We were quite willing and happy to accept diversity. So this is one point of this new paradigm, right? Celebrate. Oh, I forgot. Well, I'll come back to it in a moment. So we were able to discuss this diversity from a point of celebration, not as a point of contrast and comparison and say, oh, mine is right, yours is wrong, and all that nonsense, right? Which is very limiting. Plus, we did something else. Big Bang conversations, says Ramzi. Absolutely. We did something else that was very critical, right? We discussed many points where we discussed it without saying, here is a conclusion as a result of this discussion, right? We were happy to leave it open to say more needed. Yes. And we didn't have to, because a lot of times that we have a discussion, people insist on boxing it and say, okay, here's my conclusion on it. It's too early to make a conclusion, right? So we didn't. We left it open. As a very important paradigm shift again. Norma. So Biella heard you. And the story, the writer of this whole story, which we'll call the universe, also heard you. Yes. And it said, on Sunday, look, this is slide 1 of the second half of this chapter. Remember I said the return of Ursula? Look
Yes.
at what it starts off with. It starts off with an Ursula quote, where Ursula says, "The path is the path, capital P path, capital P path. It's the destination and the beginning in every moment."
Wow.
That's it. That's it. No discussions, no nothing. We're going to do that on Sunday. But this is for
Yes.
Norma. She says, "Where's Ursula? Look at that look in the eye of Ursula there. Ursula's looking at you, Norma. You see? See Ursula looking at you here?
Wow.
You see? You see? This is Ursula looking at you, Norma. Says, I hear you, Norma. Just you wait. I'm coming. I'm coming. I've got lots to say. I've got lots to say. Yeah. But she doesn't feel like she needs to say it. This is the difference. She knows she has much to say, but she doesn't feel a need to say it. And we're going to see that later on. Ursula has this great capacity to withhold what she wants to say, because she's got good reason for doing so, as we're going to see. Ursula is a truly magical character, Norma.
Revealing a lot. Okay. Yes.
You think so. You think so, but maybe not. I trust my mischievousness. I trust it. I trust it. So just to answer your question, Norma, my pleasure, Norma. I take such questions very seriously. Very seriously. That's a magical quote from Ursula there. Ursula talks with her eyes. Yeah, and that's only one picture of Ursula. There are many, right? Not any of the pictures represent the character. They don't look like any of the pictures specifically. It's an aspect of them. In this case, that sober gaze of Ursula, where she's looking with sobriety. Right? Her observation is more than just data collection. Right? It is assessment, but also internal, right? That look there, she's looking at you, yes, but it's very internal stuff going on, right? And things have shifted in Ursula in a good way, in a good way. Ursula talks, yes, she talks with her entire being, not just her eyes. But we are going to hear Ursula speak, and when it comes, it's worth waiting for. As you'll see, as you'll see, as you'll see. You're still free. Oh, Ramzi. So there was Ursula in this beginning of this chapter. Biella starts getting engaged with the delegates, and particularly with Comelius, and she invites Ursula to join. And Ursula, no, she indicates with her body language, no, I want to just step back and observe, yeah, and not get involved. And so now there was much speculation as to why. Yes. And I said the real deeper reason why is going to be revealed in the Ursula chapter, and it's going to be a surprise. And I invited everybody to guess what that reason could be. And we had a bunch of guesses, and I didn't say right or wrong, and we'll see. And then I think it was Norma who said, well, what do we get if we guess right? And I said, well, you get this. Yeah, if you guess right. And so so feel free to jump in on this competition and gain this wonderful prize, which I did add as a caveat. By the time it gets awarded, it may be slightly used, but nonetheless, that's the prize. Anyway, so feel free to speculate as to the real reason, the deeper reason why Ursula is choosing to observe from the outside, right? There's a very big reason for it. All right, we'll leave that for coming in the future. So fun stuff, fun stuff, fun stuff, fun stuff, magical fun stuff. Okay, I better go. I have a customer coming, so brilliant. All right, I'm not going to see you on Zoom then, Beena. I did want to talk to you about something specifically for tomorrow, but it can wait till tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So
Yeah.
we will see. Thank you so
Okay.
much. Thank you, and love you both, Ramzi and Norma and Sher,
Yes.
and
Yes.
that was really wonderful. So
Wow.
we were missing, and
Yeah.
now we have our full portion of like Ramzi was sharing, and so it is lovely.
Yes.
And thank you so much,
Yes.
Syl.
And more
It's
going
not
to
like
come.
okay, yes, I know that I do say a lot. Syl was mentioning that Beena, you say like okay, I'm not saying this for you guys and to boost your ego or to be nice with you. I
No.
truly genuinely feel that universe is providing me this opportunity where I can get this much moreness in just one session.
Exactly.
So I really
Exactly.
truly feel thankful to
E-
every
e-
one
e-
of you, because you
exactly.
guys are just
Exactly.
becoming medium for that. And of course,
Exactly.
this whole session. So that is
Exactly.
something I really,
Exactly.
really appreciate.
Exactly.
So for me, it is
Exactly. You
this
know,
whole thanks
yeah,
ceremony
yeah.
every time at the end of the session.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah,
is-
oh yeah, 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 oh yeah. Sorry to interrupt you. Important. So
Okay.
somebody was sharing that when they think of you, we were talking about names and different associations, they think of you as tinkle, as in the sound that a stream makes.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow,
when
that's
it
so
runs
beautiful.
over the rocks, that tinkling sound, or like
Yes.
wind chimes tinkling, because that when it's a gentle breeze, wind chimes
This
tinkle.
is so
Right?
beautiful. Even okay, when I'm thinking about even just this idea, it's so beautiful. I'm not saying it
Yes,
from that,
yes,
but it's so
yes,
beautiful. Whoever shares that, and that
yes.
is so. Thank you, thank you so
Can
much
you
for that.
guess who might have shared that?
Norma.
Yes, brilliant guess. Yes, yes, it was Norma
Okay.
indeed. Yes. So very beautiful, Norma, very beautiful. You're welcome to come up with names for all of us. Not that we necessarily will use them, but just in case. So
It is so
yeah,
beautiful.
yes, yes,
And
yes.
I'm happy that okay, it is a good feeling when you
Yeah,
become a your presence is not a stress for anyone, and then
correct,
they feel okay, and
correct,
it is
correct.
really important to be
Listen
aware
what
of.
Beena says to the subtleness, the exquisite. When you become aware that your presence is not a stress for anyone. Beena didn't say that your presence is a joy. See, it's that subtlety of the humility. What's important is that it's not a stress. It's not important that it's a joy necessarily. That's bonus. But it is important that it's not a stress. Very subtle, very sophisticated, very exquisite. Very cool. I love this. Beena Tinkle Sid. I'm going to end the live and end the recording, and then I'll share with you just technical stuff. It's not anything private. It's not anything great secret. I'll tell you guys about it, but it doesn't really belong in the live. It's just appropriateness. There's no great secret. I mean, you can come onto Zoom and I'll share it with you too if you want, but it's boring stuff. All
Yes,
right. So
yes.
okay. So
There's
I'm
nothing secret here. Nothing secret here.
exactly.
Trying
So
to live as
yeah.
transparent as we can.